Our guest today is Mohamed Abdel Razek, head of Mashreq's Technology Transformation and Information Group. Mohamed leads Mashreq's technology organization and drives the successful delivery of all digital services. He is responsible for the continual adoption of new and emerging technologies, ensuring customer service, excellence, and enabling seamless collaboration with the banking is external partners. Mohamed, nawartana. Your topic is one of the most interesting topics with so many points of view. For just to start, I'm sure lots of our listeners and our viewers, if they have the chance to see us, would love to know about you. So can you please share with us a bit about your role in Mashreq and your journey?
Sure. So let me start with my role in Mashreq. I've been in Mashreq for 13 months now. I joined them last year. I'm currently the group head of technology transformation and information. And of course, our topic of the day, AI, has come into play as well as part of my role. My journey is nothing less than being worldly for 30 years, 5 continents, 4 industries. So I've done telco, oil and gas, fast-moving consumer goods, and then finally I've landed in financial services for the last 9 years. Prior to Mashreq, I was at Standard Chartered Bank for 8 years, and the last role there was a regional head for Africa, Middle East in technology, transformation, and operations, actually.
You said 5 continents. My adventurous side is dying to know. Let me guess which is the missing one. Antarctica?
Yes.
And حيكون صعب if you go to North America?
North, I was there.
So South?
South.
Okay,
yes,
South
correct.
America.
Yeah.
It was one of those.
Yeah.
So I did the 7 summits. So I've been to all 7. So I'm very curious about where you've been. Yalla, 2 more.
Yalla.
You never know. AI needs to go to Antarctica.
You can go there virtually at least.
Yeah, you can go there virtually. But actually, it's something else. I would
Yes.
advise you, if anyone has a chance to go. It's a bit of the unknown. And speaking of the unknown, I feel like a lot of people feel that's how AI is. They feel like they don't know about it. It's a very contentious topic. So I would love to know, what's your thought? Is it beneficial or is it disruptive? Because there's 2 very drastic views on it, where people celebrate it and some people fight it.
Yes. Like anything else, when it's introduced, it will have skepticism. Just anecdotally, a friend of mine who is like-minded, has a clear job, is telling me the other day, the AI hype. And I said, it's not a hype. So it's actually here, and it's transformative in a way. I don't think it's disruptive is
harsh.
one word.
It's harsh.
It's a
It's harsh.
harsher
It's super
word.
harsh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
than transformative. And I think AI is going to be, or is currently, and will only amplify in transformative capabilities. For example, imagine the research for medical, or how we're going to educate ourselves. My kids are 22 and 20. And I, in my old school ways of thinking, I'm like, why is this? Why is that? They don't care about why, for example. They care about knowing the piece of information and moving along. Why is that the physics, or why is that the case? Even that, AI will be able to give an explanation of that. And even in Gen AI, you'll have images, you'll have video, you'll have a lot more content than just textual information. So you have text to image, you have text to video, you have text to speech. That was always there, but it's being better now. Even on linguistics, it can speak to me in a certain Arabic dialect, or it can, whichever I choose. So there's a lot of making it my own.
Absolutely. And I feel like everything has it's a two-edged blade. Everything can be a bottle of water can be a two-edged blade, because it can nourish you, and it can be something that if you overdo it can be harmful to you. I want to remind our listeners and our viewers that when cars were invented and when planes were, something as simple as what you see on mundane daily basis was perceived to be evil and weird. And there's this really interesting article, a story about the first lady who took the longest car ride. She was the wife of a car. I don't want to say the brand, but she was the wife of that car. And when she drove in the city, everybody was so scared, and they were doing religious signs because she was a woman on this contraption. So I remind you that everything new is perceived to be that way.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily bad. It just has to be done in the right way, right? Speaking of what people are afraid of, AI in any sector is new and, well, a bit unknown. But specifically in the banking sector, that is also something that people have been noticing and people have been a bit curious about, whether it's negative or positive.
Yeah.
So can you please tell us what's the biggest challenge in that, in merging, AI technology in the banking sector?
Okay. It's not only AI technology, because the bank is built on trust. And that trust is to safeguard your value, your money.
Yeah.
So therefore, innovation in the banking sector has to happen in a very controlled manner, because we cannot introduce edge. So a lot of people come and say, "Oh, at home I have this, and I can do this," and I'm like, "Yeah, but this is not home.
Yeah.
This is a bank,
Yeah.
and we have to secure it. We have to cyber protect it. We have to ensure data is safeguarded, appropriately managed." So when you cannot innovate on the edge in banking, right? So what we do is we innovate on the side, and that's why it takes a bit longer for banks' adoption of certain technologies, right?
Do you think that's a challenge?
It is a challenge because you have that fiduciary responsibility. Second challenge, if we're going to talk about more challenges, you have the regulatory agenda, right? Look how long it took data regulation, cyber regulation, right? Cloud regulation, what can I give away and put in a shared environment?
And it's virtual, but still needed regulations and still needed kind of protection on it.
Yeah. So cyber, the data is so important because AI is based on learning from data. If you have nothing to teach it,
it will not learn.
It won't learn anything.
We talked about, let's say, air quotes. I'm doing air quotes for those who aren't watching. We talked about the negative side, which is the difficulty, right? Because I don't think it's negative. I think it's just challenges of, evolution. Let's talk about the positive. How has AI helped and solved problems? Because it has, I'm sure.
Yes, amazingly. So AI is not new to the bank, right? So if you think about nascent or just the beginning of it was in automation.
Yeah.
For example, right? Automation is not AI because you actually program it. It's not learning itself.
Yeah. It doesn't do choices on itself.
Yes.
Okay.
However, what's new now is the whole generative piece, right? So the first gain is in customer experience.
Yeah.
So we've all experienced as an end user of banking services the automated agents at a simple level, right? When you call in, press this, it takes you here. There's no human behind those menus, for example, right? Then we got a bit more to fulfillment, right? So do you want to do that last transfer? Sure. Or we programmed ATMs when you put your card, it says, do you want to make that last transfer or do you want the same cash withdrawal? We reduce the journeys in customer experience. We enhance their experience with, let's say, automated agent that can fulfill more of their journeys in much shorter period of time. That's just one of the gains on customer experience. The other extreme gain we're going to have is in productivity of employees. Myself, for example, I get 150, 200 emails a day. Today I launch Copilot and I say, tell me, it's how you prompt it as well, right? It's really how you prompt it. And just yesterday we had a session with Microsoft around prompting, and I was thinking, and it's anecdotal for our listeners and watchers, if you think about dua, right? Or when you ask God for something, how do you ask? Like when you hear it in the mosque or when you hear it in, it's so elaborate. It's the same as prompting. If I'm not elaborate in my prompt, I'll probably get an answer that's more mediocre. You know what I mean? So being elaborate in your prompt, being elaborate in what you're asking it to do. So I asked it, tell me which 7 emails I need to respond to first.
Urgently,
Or how many approvals are waiting in my queues. Because it's my companion at the end of the day. So productivity, whether it's for a business user, will give me more time to do other things, strategic things rather than operational items. We put co-pilots with our developers. So this accelerates their time to market for app development, right? So let's say today you want to change code to add another page in your mobile app at a simple level. This takes X months for building, testing, and releasing. That time is shortened. So therefore, our client gets a faster turnaround and experience. The other one where it's extremely as well positive is on compliance and risk, fraud detection. So it can correlate different
I didn't think of that.
sets.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good one.
And then it can say, that's fraudulent. How could this person do 2 transactions from 3 countries at the same time?
Patterns.
Correct.
Okay.
And the fourth and biggest is revenue generating as well. So those are, just to summarize, the benefit areas are around our own productivity. Therefore, we get more time. Our customer experience, growth at the top line. So for example, how can I reduce non-performing loans? How can I lend you more and trust that you will pay back?
Yeah.
These are all correlations we use in the systems. And then, of course, the compliance piece and fraud and reduction of fraud.
Great way of putting it. And I like what you said. It's what, I believe in life. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. I believe this in an everyday thing, because you can see the same thing 10 different ways and there are 10 different reactions you get. So it's the same with dealing with AI. It's exactly how you say it in the right term. That's when you, the smarter you are, the more, in life, the more polite you are, the more charming you are, and the more, diplomatic you are, the further you're going to get in life. It's the same thing with AI. The smarter you are, the more nuanced and the more detailed, then the more information you'll get out of it. That's so interesting. You mentioned all of these interesting points, but I would love to know a bit more about personalization. How does AI affect that?
Of course. So hyper-personalization comes in on the client experience piece as well. So example, today, you're walking around the mall and you start getting SMSs that have nothing to do with you in the mall.
Yeah.
Right? An offer for a car insurance.
Yes.
If I want to personalize your experience, it should be about shopping at the mall. It should be about credit card promotions. It should. So how do I correlate your GPS location with the next best offer that we have with what you like in lifestyle, right? Because if I can ingest those 3 things, I can say, by the way, Harvey Nick is having a sale.
And I'll be like, oh, wow, I'm right here.
Exactly.
That can be dangerous.
That's a hyper-personalization.
That can be super dangerous. You're walking around the mall, you're like, I bought it, that's it, budget done, and then discounted in, one of my favorite brands. مشكلة هذه مشكلة. Mashreq has always been at the cutting edge of many fields and many different frontiers. AI is one of them, and I would love to know what is it doing to differentiate itself in this field? How if you want to explain to someone who is skeptical about AI and you want to show them the positive side, what would you suggest as an example, something Mashreq has done as a differentiator or something that makes it rise above,
Okay, I mean, one of the things is you can experience our mobile app and journey fulfillment as a client, right? This is because that stuff doesn't happen automatically, right? This happened through integration of AI capabilities into our mobile app, on our web services, into our contact center. This helps us field a lot more volume, because as we get into a higher volume of clients, especially if you go into, we're expanding in Pakistan, we're expanding in Egypt. Financial inclusion is coming everywhere, right? As part of ESG on the social side. That means a lot of unbanked will be banked.
Yeah.
And when you have that volume, you can't serve it with the same models. You cannot serve it with the same.
The demand is so high.
And it's very different, right?
Yeah.
The infrastructure is different. The reach is different. The data capabilities, the phones themselves, or the access to the services are very different. So how can you make it simpler, faster, and more mass attributable? Those are very important items to field, and they will only get fielded by digital and by AI infusion.
Absolutely. You're empowering a new wave or a new era in terms of who's banking. It has expanded and it will continue to expand, which also in return helps the economy and helps society, right? It's a good circle. It's a good cycle when you're trying to empower those who might not necessarily be able to bank. You're helping them find their way to generate wealth, to help themselves change their circumstances. So that's very admirable, and I admire that.
Yeah.
I have a tough question because this comes up with anything that can be corrupted, right? Like anything that's programmed can be reprogrammed. So I'm sure a lot of people ask, well, when there is AI, how is it safe? How are you safeguarding that this AI will not be corrupt? You know, how well, humans also can be corrupt, right? Everything that's programmable can be corrupt. So I would love to know, how is Mashreq ensuring that there's no any blurring of ethical lines or any weaknesses in the system? Because I'm sure a lot of people will ask this question and say, well, if it's AI, you know, we see a lot of these movies where people, you know, hack and people, you know, most of the time it's Hollywood people. It's not as easy, you know, but it's a valid question because everything is getting smarter and everything is getting more reliant on digital and AI. So how do they safeguard that? How do they protect?
Okay. So the approach to deployment is the key. And we're starting with governance, right? So what's our standards, policies, responsible AI framework, right? Before applying it at much larger scale.
Good infrastructure.
Yes, and especially on policy standards and measurability, to ensure that we have, you know, principles such as transparency or, you know, observability of the performance of. I mean, back when we started on digital, a digital worker who is actually just a computer that's programmed to do something is given an identity. So you know that they are processing.
Interesting.
Because you cannot not know the traceability or the lineage to which data it took the decision from.
Because if you don't give it an identity, one of them
made the mistake,
and one of them made a mistake, you won't know who is accountable for the mistake.
Correct.
But if you identify them, then there's accountability.
Correct.
And even if they're not physical people,
Yes,
they still need to be accountable. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, you have to give them an ID.
Yeah, which is an identity. Well,
Correct.
I'm creative and romantic, so I would say, you know, ID, identity, but you give them you know, responsibility that is tied to their number or who they are. Wow, that's so fascinating. That's really interesting.
Yeah. So guardrails, just to answer the question, guardrails around the whole governance, the whole deployment with responsibility and ethical deployment, the cleansing of data and the understanding of lineage and having that transparency is the approach we are taking, right? So we can go. Some people have experimented with models. That's where experimentation is not is needed, but it's not welcome, right? Because you cannot experiment in real inside the banking production systems, right? We can experiment on the outside, but not experiment.
Well, like anything, even something as simple as baking a cake. Like, you'll try to do all the mistakes when you don't have guests, but when you do have guests, you want to give them a nice cake that won't take them to the hospital.
Correct.
I say this about myself because I'm a horrible baker, and during COVID I tried to bake, but it's the same thing. You can't implement something that isn't solid in real life circumstances, because the circumstances will be grave and will be problematic. But there's huge potential in this. So I would love to discuss, what are the potentials in collaborating between fintech and startup and other AIs? There's huge potential. How do you see it?
Okay. So let me talk about it in terms of partnerships. Because fintech is just one type of partnership where people are, let's say, experimenting on edge. And how do you bring it into core? But our relationship with our key vendors, is paramount, right? Because if we're going to do Copilot with a Microsoft, or we have IBM products, or we have Oracle products, right? Everybody is starting to infuse AI in their current tools as well. So in our next generation of just adopting the next laptop or the next phone, right? Even your phone will have AI infusion in the next version. And Apple has already released that, for example, right? So AI is coming because the models are there, they're public. But how we train other models to deliver more banking information is where we have to safeguard. So what's available in the public domain is accessible today.
Yes.
And even we have a slider on the desktop, whether it's inside or outside information. So I can, on my Copilot on the phone, I can say, web, get me public data.
Oh, so you tell it where to think.
Where
to get the data from.
Grab data from.
Interesting.
Right? Because on the public domain, it doesn't have access to my email, my SharePoint, my OneDrive. It doesn't.
So it sees it from that perspective.
Yes, unless I go internal.
And then it has more information internally.
Correct.
Oh, that's so fast. Because if it doesn't know where it's getting the information from, you might not get the answer you're looking for. You might not get the response you're looking for. That's so fascinating.
Think about it this way.
Wow.
I'm going to try to... You get a photography specialist, okay? But they don't know anything about you. And you're the hostess, right?
Yes.
Then they get to know you. They get to know, and they'll photograph you better than they would by just being a great photographer.
Yes.
So you train them on your own perspective.
Yes.
Then they see, she smiles when she says this, or that's data training specifically on you. But they could be a subject matter expert, but they're not trained on your specifics.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I've experienced this. So I'm one of those people that hates typing because I'm dyslexic and I'm horrible at typing. And then I use this little app that I write.
Dictation.
Yes, I speak, I say what I want to say, and it makes me sound really cool. And I've noticed that after using it for almost a year now, it knows how I speak.
Yeah.
It knows the terms I say. For example, I say cookie cutter a lot when I want to say examples of things that are typical. It started saying cookie cutter.
There you go.
So it learns who you are, and it becomes more adaptable to your mannerisms and your terms.
Correct.
And that's just a small little app of typing, right? فما بالك قيسها على other things, like take it and expand it to other things.
Yes.
That's so fascinating. It's such a wide horizon, and I see a lot of changes happening in AI and in the banking industry. There's a lot, right? But حاليا, right now, where are we? How prepared are they for the next wave of AI? How do you think, are they ready? يعني ولا تحس لسه we're still on baby wheels, training wheels?
We're ready and getting ready.
Okay,
I'll
so one training wheel بس. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll explain.
Okay.
So there are two sides of the whole AI journey,
Yeah.
right? At least for us at the bank. One is the internal productivity and everything else of the employees. Like I said, around the developer productivity, my own productivity, my colleagues' productivity. How can I use Copilot and infuse my day-to-day to do 3 times what I do today, and I'm the same person getting the same pay, right? So how can I do more with AI? That's on the inside productivity. However, on the external side, we are looking at AI being a tool. AI is not a silver bullet, and I want to make sure people understand. AI is like a tool that you will use to solve a problem. So assuming in banking, I say, I want to make sure that I have less default on credit card lending. Which is called non-secure lending, right? So you lend, you buy clothes, you buy whatever, you buy gas. I can never get that gas or clothing back. It's not like a property where it's secured lending, right? So that non-secured lending has a default rate because banks would traditionally raise the credit limit, and people would spend that money and then sort of leave or
default.
not be traceable or default on payment until they get to a collections point. The more I know about the people that I lend to and I know about their capability to pay back,
the more I know what the liability it is.
I can reduce that.
That's so fascinating.
And that's more, A, better banking, B, more profit for us in terms of non-defaulting lending.
Yes.
But it's the problem statement that you want to resolve. So you infuse AI by saying, okay, someone, I want to raise your credit limit. What are you good for, right? Are you good for 100, 200, 300? Before I say, here's $500,000 or whatever, and then you go spend it and you can't even pay it back.
You can't pay it. Yeah.
Right. So through AI, through public domain knowledge, we can aggregate data, right? You can look at adverse media, for example. I mean, a lot of the examples we're talking because, our viewers are more on the retail side. But everyone works in a corporate.
Yeah.
And corporates, they go through change. Their chairmans are changing. Their CEOs are changing. There is companies buying companies and M&A. So if I do a media search, I can really get to know a lot more about those companies and profile them. I can
more accurately.
This is a really good one. I take your annual report for 3 years back and I churn it into a model and I say, tell me approximately how much I can lend company X or company Y. I can see their performance and I can marry it with the front view of the current social ingestion.
Interesting.
So I have the information from the past, I have the projections of the future from social media, from what's happening in the company, and then I can decide, this is going to be one of my key clients or my growth customer. That's how you can use it.
It's so the difference between normal profiling and AI profiling, if you may, is the same thing as taking a picture of someone and taking an X-ray of someone. So you can really see deeply in the person.
Correct.
A picture you can see, maybe they look healthy, maybe they look fine, but an X-ray or an MRI or a CT, whatever it is, you can go in deeper. That's how I imagine it in my head.
Correct.
You're looking at it in such a deeper way. It's fascinating how much it can impact and solve issues before they happen. That's one of the best things about AI, is it's solving problems that haven't occurred yet.
Yes.
Fascinating. We live in this era of new things and trends and everything new happening, and we're very, very fast-paced, and you're only as cool as the last trend you did, and all these things, okay? Maybe not my maybe the generation اللي طالع. But I would love to know, and I'm curious as well, is there a trend or something that's happening in AI now that might have a significant change in banking in the future?
There is a trend. There's more trends happening around us. For example, there is open finance. I mean, we had open banking a couple of years back, and now there is more of open finance.
Can you explain the difference? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah. So open banking is primarily on just payment and just transaction information sharing.
It's simple, straightforward.
Yeah, so it's just really on the payment rails. The other one is full. It's on lending. It's on full data set. So let's say when open finance is a reality, you will give consent that, let's say, Etisalat takes your banking data.
Oh.
And then they have your mobile data, and with open finance, we can get Etisalat's data if they're part of the finance platforms.
Okay.
Because they become a regulated third-party provider. We are a licensed financial institution. So you have this, now data is being shared, and if Etisalat has a great AI or insights engine, they can start promoting different things because they know your wealth point, they know how much you spend, and then they say, your mobile bill is much smaller than it should be.
Okay.
So how can I grow your telco bill?
Yeah.
Or how can I entice you into their wallets?
Or العكس صحيح.
Or العكس صحيح.
Like if it's over your budget and it's a burden on you, maybe they can offer you something,
Correct. Discounts or something to reduce your cost of living.
Yeah.
So open finance is also is happening around us, and in the UAE there's a heavy regulation pushing to get to open finance, which will then democratize a lot of the banking in-out services. However, you asked me more about the bank itself.
Yes.
Right? The bank itself as a treasury will continue to persist in terms of being a treasury, safeguarding the value of money, economic controls.
Okay.
But the in and out we will all see it change very quickly.
Yeah,
right?
and it's so fast changing and evolving that it's very hard to predict where it's going, because you can see in our generation, our lifetime, how much it has changed and impacted. I have so many questions, but I'm pressed with time. But my last question to you is really outside of the box, and none of the questions I gave you. And I like to throw a curveball because I'm so curious to know if you could have an AI, whatever form of it, a program or something. What would it be? In what facet of your life, if you can have an AI do something in your life?
In my life.
In your life, if you let's say you have a magic software and it can program anything and it can make it even physical. It can be something that does a solution for you. I know what I'll do. Mine will be an AI that cooks for me. It will be an AI that hands come out, and I've seen this already. Hands that come out of the kitchen وأقول أنا today I feel like olio pasta from Amalfi Coast, and I'm like, yes, ma'am. That's the AI I would like in my life, because I'm a horrible cook and I love food. So if you can imagine anything, what AI would you ask for?
I'll take it to the next level.
I would love to hear that.
Have my AI companion.
Interesting.
But back, I don't want to disclose my age, but
okay,
back from university
okay.
Level onwards, right? I'd love to have developed my AI companion.
Okay.
That can help me in cooking. That can help
a person.
me. Well, a person, a
program,
a voice.
Okay.
I mean, AI can come in
many
humanoid
forms.
format today because you just put that voice and annotation.
You imagine it,
into, but normally it's a compute at the end of the day. It's a compute companion, but it will develop because back in the days data was not available
exactly
in this format.
Yes,
right, in any which way. There was no open banking, there was no data sharing, everything was within,
okay,
you want to book an Emirates flight, you go to Emirates. You don't go to a platform.
Exactly.
And then platforms became available, whether it's booking or transport. I mean, we can use those as examples, but I mean, I would have loved an AI companion that develops over the years.
That's so fast. What would you name him?
Or her.
Her, them.
My wife. No, just kidding. I would just give them a name, one of my nicknames.
That's so cool. Thank you so much. It's been very insightful, and I never imagined AI would have. I knew it would have an impact, but I didn't imagine how much of an impact it can go. It's so much deeper than just fixing problems now. It's so much deeper than now. It can be
complete. Is very profound.
It is so profound, and a lot of people don't realize how deep actually AI can go in a positive way.
Yes.
Let's choose the positive, because we can all say that what was the movie in Starnet and all the drama that everyone gets scared about it, but it can also save lives. It can solve problems. It can help people who usually give voice to people who wouldn't necessarily have a voice. So
correct.
I love that.
You have to deploy it appropriately.
Like everything in life.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. This has been so cool.
It's a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine.
Thanks.